welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. The Fragments of Silicon review specifically. 4 reviews up this week. First of which is Ebenezer and the Invisible World. Now, this title you may have actually heard of beforehand. I know, like, it's a title that's, how do I put this? I don't want to say punching above its weight. I don't think that's the right terminology. It got a lot more notice than I think a game of this type would usually get.
Part of it definitely being these slightly off-season thematic elements.
Right, but I think it mainly comes down to, well, the obvious. It's like, what if we took Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol and made a Metroidvania out of it?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
the stupidest thing I've heard all week, but let's go. Just
right.
Look, I can think of worse things to make Metroidvanias out of.
I've played worse things to make Metroidvanias out of.
Also fair.
Yeah. But I'm guessing this particular combination got enough notice where, we saw the premiere trailer of this at the PC Game Show, if I'm remembering correctly, at a major trade event. And, that usually doesn't happen for games of this stature. I'm like, because
relatively indie ones, you mean?
Relative indie. At best, maybe this appears at a PlayStation or Nintendo indie. I don't want to call it conference, one of
presentation?
One of those
question mark?
Yeah. Like, I'm not sure, one of their indie events.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, this came at a very high profile. And I really do think that's because, well, not only is it got novelty on its side, but it looks pretty good as well.
Yeah, of anything I've heard a complaint about in this, the art style is not one of it, or the implementation of it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the worst you could say is, everything looks a bit nondescript, but I'm like, it's less about, capturing the magic of London, the city, and conveying a sense of Christmas here.
Yes.
Like,
real London has significantly less vertical architecture due to the general lack of double jump capability among the populace.
Right. And, like, the actual in-game sprite for Ebenezer Scrooge is, I'm like, an interpretation. Like,
probably one of the youngest interpretations I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I don't know. He doesn't look that young. He's very spry, but he has white hair and a mustache. And this is an art style where you don't necessarily get a ton of wrinkles or anything. But yes, he has been bishified, I guess.
Yeah.
On the other hand, there's a little bit of an excuse for that. Story-wise, this takes place after A Christmas Carol. This is the fully improved himself Ebenezer Scrooge, which means he's taking a hell of a lot better care of himself than he was when he was miserable and living in an empty house and eating only gruel.
I'm like, yeah, but still, he is displaying a impressive amount of agility for someone who needs to use a cane.
Oh yeah.
Isn't he supposed to be in his 60s?
He's older.
Yeah, it's like, I don't think he's ever given an actual age. It's just, he's supposed to be old to some extent, let's say. Well, here because this is a video game where that matters, he can move very spryly.
Yeah, he's supposed to be in like his late 50s or something, which again, most versions of his art look older than that, and that's because he was taking shit care of himself, because taking care of yourself means spending money.
Mind you, I wouldn't say this is the spryest I've ever seen Ebenezer Scrooge. No, that goes to the 2009 Jim Carrey 3D.
Tertiary Look Online put Scrooge around his mid 50s to early 60s.
Yeah, that's about where we pegged it. Yeah. Anyway, so I couldn't tell you why the developers and the publishers have embarked on this particular journey. It's not from a lack of asking. I've sent a couple of invites. I never heard back.
Unfortunate.
Dear devs, I mean this with all love and sincerity, but what the heck were you thinking?
Can I ask what you were on?
When it comes to video games, I've seen weirder.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those mediums where I can say that. Where, just on the face of things, this is pretty weird. But I would also chalk that up to, A Christmas Carol being adapted as much as it has. I'd say the obvious thing that you would do in terms of making a Christmas Carol video game would be, say, a point-and-click adventure.
Mm-hmm. And we have plenty of those.
I'm not sure if we have I'm not sure we actually have one of those. An actual point-and-click, a Christmas Carol game. Or even
alternately a rhythm game, including songs from various different musical versions of the adaptations of it, because there's some bangers there.
I'm not even sure we have before this, we had a Christmas Carol game. I guess technically speaking, we don't, because, as you mentioned, this is actually a year after, at least. I'm not sure it's been given a proper establishment.
All it's saying is a sequel.
Yeah. So.
And my understanding of the plot here, approximately what you get in the first bit of the game, is that about a year after the Christmas Carol thing happened, Ebenezer is visited by a spirit, only it's not nighttime here, and it's about someone else. Apparently, Ebenezer has a bit of lingering ghost-seeing ability, and that's why this ghost has come to him for help, because you see, this guy saw what Marley did for Scrooge, and saw a guy that he knew when he was alive, who he thought could use the same sort of help. So he did the same thing with the ghosts of Christmas past and present and future, and didn't work so well this time.
Right. There's more to this.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you have to fight, once again, it's weird that you've got, okay, how do I put this? You've got Ebenezer Scrooge, champion of the people here.
Did that hurt as much as it hurt for me to hear?
No.
I mean, it kind of makes, he's stayed true to his word about being better.
Yeah, and he's very early in the game, you approach a union protest. And Ebenezer Scrooge is decidedly on the side of the unionists, against the evil industrialist Casper Matthias and his private guard. The ultimate goal here is to take him down. Along the way with saving some of the saving the spirits, some of saving the spirits. Some of it's mandatory, some of it is side quests. And your reward for completing the side quests are you get new attack spirits that can, like, one will generate a damage shield that is out of
these are your Castlevania sub weapons, basically.
Yeah.
Or bullet souls.
Mm-hmm. Like, it's good that you mentioned Castlevania because honestly, this game reminds me a lot of Castlevania.
The mechanics it includes are, or the base mechanics it's working with are extremely rooted in the Egavania / Metroidvania style Castlevanias.
Oh, very much so. Honestly, more so than a lot of indie Metroidvanias, I would say. Like, I actually felt like I was playing Aria of Sorrow or something like that with this game. Not nearly as polished, mind you, but I can appreciate the art on display, as it were. Still, nonetheless, and it's not just like the base mechanics can be matched up to Castlevania. It's things like the level design, not just like the verticality, but little things like the save points. Like, the save point structure is very Castlevania.
Mm-hmm.
You can only save at a save point. I know this is, and if you die, you go right back to a checkpoint, no matter how far you've gotten. I know this isn't like the first indie Metroidvania to ever do this or anything like that. I'm just saying, when I encounter that kind of design, that takes me right back to Symphony of the Night. That's all. And it's things to the weapon selection. Like Ebenezer's default cane is in the vein of Alucard's, or Soma Cruz, a sword weapon. But you do
get a 3-hit combo.
Yes. But you want to guess what the first not weapon upgrade, but alternate weapon is?
Probably either an overhead swing or some kind of whip type thing.
It's a whip. It's a ghost chain whip. A lot of Ebenezer's attacks or what have you are spirit based.
Makes sense. Yeah. It's the reason he's here is because he can, see ghosts. Yeah. Which unfortunately also gives him the ability to get smacked around by ghosts.
Mm-hmm. And humans as well. Yeah. So, bit of a problem there. But also worth noting is you will get spirit helpers. They are the children of the Ghost of Christmas Present. Just the hereto unremarked siblings. Like, I only got one through my playthrough, but I don't think you're going to get want or ignorance as spiritual sidekicks.
That would be a little bit harder, yeah.
No. The spirit sidekick I got was their sister, Courage. Who's, like a fairy nymph that has a pretty effective bow. Once again, it's something that we've seen in, specifically Symphony of the Night and the Sorrow games, sidekicks of that nature. It all comes down to, it's all very Castlevania. If you had to pick from the Metroid to the Castlevania, definitely Castlevania here. In fact, I could not think of anything in this game that was evocative of Metroid. Because there is a scale of Metroidvania. Are you Metroid? Are you Castlevania? Are you somewhere in between? We've encountered both sides, and degrees in between, and then the skeletal structure, and then you're doing your own thing. Yeah, it's a pretty robust genre, is what I'm saying, especially on the indie scene.
This one doesn't seem to have a generic leveling up, but honestly, that's usually the least useful part of a Metroidvania.
Yeah.
Because yay, I sure do love grinding for experience.
I'm like, yeah, no. The power-ups are, not stage-based, not just, you defeat a boss, you get the power-up, I mentioned the side quest, but like increasing your health and your magic, you have to go to a specific spirit and give them crafting items, or at least, well, they're not technically crafting items, but they're the kind of ingredients that we today would recommend.
Yeah, they're ingredients.
Yeah, it's just putting that in a modern context, if you will. And finally, once again, in the image of Castlevania, you can equip Ebenezer Scrooge with up to 4 artifacts of various sorts. Like the first artifact that you're probably going to find is the pretty bog standard money attract item. A money magnet, if you will.
I got to the shop and they had them for sale, although most of them weren't in my price range. There's like one that makes enemies have a chance to drop health items.
Yeah, I got that.
There are ones that increase the power of your weapon or give your spirit things a chance to crit, like melee can.
Yeah, for the ones that you purchase, sometimes you can just buy them. Sometimes you have to have the materials and the money. Yeah. Like, and like I said, there's a fair amount of them. I did not count the columns and rows, but there seems to be a fair amount of artifacts. So that does mean
they're going for something like a Hollow Knight setup, I think. Although minus needing one to see the map.
Yeah. Don't talk with your mouth full.
Sorry.
Anyway, so yeah, that is the base. That's the basic to advanced subtle structure of Ebenezer and the Invisible World. So how does it all play? Probably better than you were expecting. Like if you were thinking this is a complete joke game, where, the whole joke is, look, we put Ebenezer Scrooge in a Metroidvania. And I wouldn't put past some indie developers to do that kind of thing. Like we've certainly featured games like that on the show. But no, this is all played completely straight. There's no postmodern ironic humor going on here. There's no meta commentary about shit. This is 100% straight laced. And everything is taken seriously, and so it plays like an actual video game. It plays like an actual Metroidvania. But
the controls are fairly smooth.
Yeah. It all works, but you'll probably note it does have a lack. it does smack of a lack of polish at times. From what I've been hearing, like it's been especially bad on the Nintendo Switch. Like apparently, like that game, that version is having crashes, hard crashes. I'll note we did not get a Nintendo Switch copy. Like PC all the way here.
Yeah, and I got it on the PC because I played the demo a bit back when there was a demo.
Right. So on the PC, it plays fine. It's just, it also plays kind of sloppy. Like there wasn't quite enough time to make sure the controls were as tight as possible.
There are some odd control binding choices and no ability to adjust that.
Yeah, which is weird in the modern day, to say the least. But more to the point, like the actual jumping feels and landing feels a bit ropey. Biggest problem I had was I encountered a bug sometimes when I'd load up the game where if I moved to the food portion of the inventory, it would just go straight down. Couldn't move it back up. Every time I did up, it just go back down. I couldn't tell you why. It wasn't consistent, but it happened more than once. That's the kind of thing that tells me that a bit more play testing, bug reporting could have been done here. Because that's not even a minor glitch. That's it wasn't if there wasn't another way to select the food, that would have been a deal breaker. But thankfully, if you do encounter this, with the right analog stick, you can, I believe in pressing it down. The R3 button, as opposed to moving it left or right. That selects your ghost. Pressing it down selects your food, and hitting the left bumper lets you eat the food. It's a bit more real time, but I was still able to replenish my health while fighting a boss.
Which is good because as with many of this games that this is based on, you don't get that many hits usually.
No, you don't. This is a game where food is limited, but it's definitely expecting you to use that at points, especially when you're just starting out.
Does it have an inventory limit per item?
If it does, I didn't see it. I didn't encounter it. We're talking
some games are weird about that.
It'd be 99 at the very least. I was able to get double digits into the red berries. So
okay, yeah, because in I think in some of the actual Castlevanias, you can carry a large number of potions, but not many of actual food things. In Bloodstained, I think it's the other way around.
Yeah. Though I think overall the weakest portion of the game is audio. This being a Christmas-themed game, you'd probably be expecting a lot of carols and Christmas music. And there's music there, but 9 times out of 10, it's very incidental. And
it's more generically wintry rather than actually Christmas.
Yeah. It's very minor key stuff. And honestly, you'll stop paying attention to it pretty quickly.
Also, no voice acting, and that actually kind of stood out to me because this seemed like a game that would have loved it, probably.
Yeah.
I know it would have vastly increased the budget, so I'm not surprised there isn't any, but it would have been nice.
It depends on what kind of voice acting they would have been aiming for. Given the general production values here, they probably would have gone higher than, say, the dev's friends and family.
Uh-huh.
Or
Also,
kidnapping a high
particularly
school
since the
drama
vast
club.
majority of the cast is British.
Right. The thing is, I'm not exactly sure where this game was developed. Like you'd think it would be England, but with these games, it's like it could be from Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm not joking, by the way. Or Brazil, or Indonesia.
It's certainly a very well-known story that it's based on, or is a sequel to.
Yeah. Ooh, God, what's the country code for BR? Brazil. There we go.
Brazil.
Like I said, Orbit Studio is located in Brazil, so that just proves my point.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's something that would be incredibly obscure to anyone outside of that country. That's a different story. But yeah, A Christmas Carol, it's been widely adapted and widely known, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so all in all, this is a surprisingly good game. Like, I gotta admit, I wasn't expecting that much out of it. I wasn't expecting a flat out joke from this, but I wasn't expecting such a robust Metroidvania styled adventure game out of A Christmas Carol. But hey, no lump of coal here. In terms of pricing, Ebenezer and the Invisible World will clock in at $19.99 standard price. That is a perfectly cromulent price point for a game not just of this nature, but of this size. Once again, it's not just it's an indie Metroidvania. It's I hesitate to use this word, but it feels like it fits a proper Metroidvania. Mm-hmm. Or rather, it's not something that is bite-sized. We've encountered more than a few indie Metroidvania that's, only a few hours long. Mm-hmm. That ain't this.
Stuff that feels like they were trying to go for Symphony of the Night, forgot the second castle type thing.
No. Something that was decidedly meant for like 2 hours.
Yeah, there are some Metroidvanias that are quite short and don't have nearly as much exploration as you'd feel like they ought to.
Right, and those games just automatically kind of trend towards the Metroid side of things because Metroid is more that than Castlevania is.
Yes. Like Metroid games actually don't take that long to complete.
Yeah.
Depending on how much you get lost.
Right. But it's also, what game was made, the speed running scene, Super Metroid.
Oh, yeah.
I know there's one for Symphony of the Night and all that stuff, but, it's not as world famous as Super Metroid over there.
There's a reason why for the past several years, it's been a GDQ finale.
Yeah. But yeah, overall good show. Probably like it probably could do with some update patches, at least the PC version. Once again, I've heard bad things about the Switch version. Like I read Nintendo Life's review of this, and they were not kind to the technical problems there. But
and these are just to fix technical problems. They're not like wanting more content update patches. It's fix your shit patches.
Yeah. But like the game as a game in general is fine. More than fine. It's also not going to be like mentioned in the same breath as the tippy top tier Metroidvania titles, Guacamelee, Hollow Knight, Axiom Verge, etc. Like, nobody's staked that claim here. I'm like, or if they have, I would not agree with that. But it's still a damn fine game.
Right.
So, anyway, any other questions, comments, or concerns about Ebenezer and the Invisible World?
I think I'm good.
I'm good too.
Okay. So, yeah, that'll about do it for this game. Be sure to tune in after the break as Petty Fan will be reviewing Star Wolf, Seeker of the Secret Space.